Imagine finding a glowing blue powder in an abandoned building. It's beautiful, it looks like something out of a jewelry shop or a sci-fi movie. So you take it home, you show it to your kids, your neighbors, you pass it around like if it was a wonder of nature, like if you have just found one-of-a-kind item. Now, imagine that powder is one of the most lethal radioactive substances on Earth. That's not a script from Thriller, by the way. That actually happened in 1987 in the middle of a Brazilian city of over 1 million people. And for 2 entire weeks, nobody knew anything about it. Hey, welcome back. Today we're getting into Radioactive Emergency, Netflix Brazilian miniseries that dropped March 2026. It went straight to #1 in over 55 countries all over the world. What the series is actually like, cast, direction, cinematography, and yes, the Chernobyl comparison everyone is making. Is it fair? Well, let's get into it. So what is this show? Radioactive Emergency, or Emergência Radioativa in Portuguese, is a 5-episode Netflix miniseries. It's based on the 1987 Goiânia Cesium-137 accident, one of the worst radiological disasters in history that did not involve a nuclear power plant. It was created by Gustavo Lipsztein. You might know him from The Endless Night. For the Brazilians, Todo Dia Mesma Noite, sobre a Boate Kiss. Radioactive Emergency stars Johnny Massaro, Paulo Gorgulho, Bukassa Rabengele, Ana Costa, Leandra Leal, Antônio Saboia, amongst others. The show is directed by Fernando Coimbra, the lead director here. You might know his work without even knowing his name. He directed episodes of Narcos, that Netflix series with Wagner Moura as Pablo Escobar. He also directed some of episodes of HBO's Perry Mason, one-of-a-kind series by the way. The guy knows how to handle a story with weight to it. Coimbra was 11 years old when the Goiânia disaster happened. He watched it unfold on Brazilian TV. So 40 years later, when he finally gets to tell this story, that's not just a job to him. You really feel that he wanted to bring the real drama to the series. Co-directing with him is Iberê Carvalho, another solid Brazilian director. The cinematographer is Adrián Tejido. He shot Walter Salles' I'm Still Here, or Ainda Estou Aqui, which won the Oscar of Best International Film in 2025. Fernando Coimbra, the lead director here, speaking to Variety, said it simply, and I really like this quote. The secret of getting it done was to hire the best professional possible. Once you have these minds with you, it all starts coming together. Okay. Real story time. Let's get to it. September 13, 1987. Goiânia, central of Brazil. A place with over 1 million people. Just a couple of hours from the capital, Brasília. 2 scrap collectors break into an abandoned medical clinic called Instituto Goiano de Radioterapia. The clinic had relocated 2 years earlier in '85, and when they moved, leaving that site, they left behind a radiotherapy machine. There were no warning signs, no notification to any authority. They just left it there in an abandoned building in a residential area. Criminal negligence doesn't quite cover what we're saying here. So the scrap guys find the machine, they haul it out, a heavy lead cylinder, and they sell it into a local junkyard owner. The owner of the junkyard notices something strange about it. He tries to crack it open in his garage, as one does, right? And finds a small capsule inside. Maybe not this small. And inside that capsule is a powder that glows blue in the dark. Now, this is what breaks my heart and gives me like goosebumps here, is the blue glow is real. It is not a movie effect. It's called the Cherenkov radiation, and it is extremely rare. Most radioactive materials do not glow at all, but this one did. It was bright, vivid blue. And to people with no scientific background, sometimes no formal education at all, it looked like a treasure. So the junkyard owner rubbed it on his skin, he brought it home, he showed his wife, His daughter came over. The neighbors gathered around his table. Kids played with it. They rubbed it on their skin as well. And people were genuinely enchanted by this beautiful glowing blue powder. They were completely unaware that it was the cesium-137. Basically a radioactive isotope used in cancer radiotherapy, and that it was silently destroying their cells. Within days, I said days, people started getting sick, really sick, vomiting, hair loss, skin lesions. But because nobody had any reason to think it was radiation, 2 weeks went by before anyone raised any alarm. By the time authorities showed up, contamination had spread across several neighborhoods, multiple houses, a bus, a car, dozens of families. In total, 249 people were directly contaminated. 4 died within weeks, including the junkyard owner's 6-year-old niece, Leide das Neves, who had played with the powder on her skin. Over 100,000 people were eventually screened at a stadium turned into an emergency triage site. Full buildings got demolished. People lost their homes forever. The military had to come in to secure the capsule. Years later, court sentenced the clinic owners. Courts fined the Nuclear Energy Commission, and the show's version of the commission director delivers what is honestly the most chilling line in the whole series. And I'll quote, "The cesium leak occurred because everyone involved in handling the equipment failed in their responsibilities." That's not drama. That's basically the judge's summary. Now, let me talk you through the show itself now. No big spoilers, just the shape of it. So it starts with a coincidence. Márcio, a nuclear physicist played by Johnny Massaro, is in Goiânia visiting his family. He's there not for work. He's there with his fiancée visiting his dad. An old friend of his, now a local doctor, calls him to look at some confusing cases at the hospital. Patients start showing up with symptoms that don't really fit any diagnosis. And Márcio starts following this thread to understand what the heck is happening. The show then runs 2 tracks of narrative at once. On one side, Márcio and the senior radiation expert, Dr. Orenstein, played by Paulo Gorgulho, doing the detective work. Basically, we see Geiger counters, contamination maps, busy rooms with maps, impossible conversations with politicians. On the other side of the story, there is the local community. And this is where the show earns the strength, according to me. Evenildo, the junkyard owner, played by Bukasa Kabengele, is not framed as a villain. He is a guy who found something he did not understand and made decisions that seemed completely reasonable to him at that time. Unfortunately, his family pays the price for it, and the show sits with that, lets you digest it. It doesn't rush past their grief to get back to science. So now let's talk a little bit about film nerdiness. So the heavyweight cinematographer Tejido shoots 1987 Goiânia with sun-bleached dusty palette. Yellows, oranges, the center of Brazil heat hitting on everything. And then whenever the cesium appears, that blue glow just feels completely wrong. Like something that beautiful has no business existing in the world we're living in. It's a simple visual idea that it works very well to show contrast. Art director Marcos Pedroso period reconstruction is the kind where you stop noticing it, which is the highest compliment I think somebody can get. It is just the late 80s Brazil. There's no retro winking, no aesthetic nostalgia, no filters. It is just the texture of the place and time. One thing worth flagging though, this series was shot in São Paulo, not Goiânia, and that caused real friction in real life when the series got launched. The Association of Cesium Victims, AVCESIO, with over 1,000 survivors, publicly criticized Netflix for filming elsewhere and for not involving affected families in production. The president of the association, Marcelo Santos Neves, said it plainly. How can you make a series about this story and not let those who experienced it firsthand have their say? Now, Netflix obviously responded that they worked with doctors and physicians physicists on accuracy. And what I heard the most was that the lead director, Fernando Coimbra, told a bit more about the story construct to Harper Bazaar's publication. We did a huge amount of iconography research. So I went to Goiânia with the team to look at the institute, but the city had changed everything. There was no way to use it. You get there and you know right away it's not real. Basically what he said is that Goiânia of today does not look like Goiânia of '87. All right. I know you wanted this, so let's get to the Chernobyl comparison. The 1986 Chernobyl explosion was a nuclear reactor meltdown. Radioactive fallout over continental Europe. Millions affected long term. The kind of disaster that rewrites global nuclear policy. Goiânia, a year later, was one abandoned capsule spreading through one city. 4 deaths, 249 directly contaminated. Horrifying, yes, but nowhere near the same scale. Now here's the interesting thing. The show itself brings up Chernobyl. Characters refer to the cesium-137 as one of the Chernobyl isotopes because the Ukrainian disaster was less than a year earlier and everyone was already scared. And actually, the International Atomic Energy Agency Emergency Assistance Framework, which was created because of the Chernobyl in '86, was used for the first time ever during Goiânia's response. So these two disasters are genuinely linked. One built the toolbox that the other needed. Where they really match is the theme. Both come down to institutional failure, bureaucratic negligence, and governments trying to manage the story while scientists are screaming that there isn't time for that. Cinema de Boteco, a Brazilian film website, put it cleanly, and again, let me translate it here. Radioactive Emergency does what Chernobyl did masterfully, but in a Brazilian key. It joins the technical race with social collapse. And that's the comparison that holds to me. HBO's Chernobyl is about a totalitarian system undone by its own lies. Radioactive Emergency is about a young democracy. Now, let's remember really fast. Brazil had just ended its military dictatorship in '85. The people in the country doesn't yet trust its own institutions. Even the governor in the show isn't cartoonishly evil. He just keeps trying to make the crisis look smaller than it actually is, for reasons that are entirely political, which, well, recent memory. The director Fernando Coimbra said to Variety, "You have that same feeling that it could happen now, that enormous gap between the rich and the poor in Brazil, it's still there, and so is the lack of trust." So history as a mirror, not as a museum display, right? And here's the thing most people do not know. The Goiânia disaster actually changed international safety law. It gave the International Atomic Energy Agency the push to create a global framework for what they call the orphan sources, radioactive material that gets lost or abandoned with no oversight, like the ones from clinics. That framework exists today. It saved lives. The people of Goiânia essentially paid with their bodies and lives to write a rule the rest of the world uses without even knowing it exists. This is a show that portrays a story that many are not aware of in the world, but that it's more than just entertainment. It shows collective grief, social disparity, and it serves as a tribute to those who survived one of the most painful chapters of Brazilian culture and history. Is it perfect? Not really. The ending doesn't give you the relief you want. Cleanup happens barely. Accountability is partial, and it doesn't really close anything. It shows you what it costs a disaster like this. It drags a bit in the middle, the pacing could be tighter, and the controversy around not filming in Goiânia doesn't really, triggers happy thoughts to me. But watch it, especially if you loved HBO's Chernobyl, or if you're just someone who thinks real stories hit harder than invented ones. Because this one hits very hard, and it triggers. Be aware. Hit the like button if you made this far, drop a comment, and let me know. Have you seen it? What did you think? Were you aware of this incident? Are you a physicist nerd? Just let us know. See you next time. Ciao, ciao.